Mr. Duia actually is telling us the evolution is good. The response from the respondents is also suggesting 7 of the TLS members are for devolution. That's very good survey and presentation. Asante sana, Mr. Duia. And as we have agreed, I think we should hear the next presenters, and then together we will combine the questions, suggestion, and even discussion after the 2 presenters. Na presenter anayefuata alipaswa awe ndo wa pili, lakini kwa sababu ya nafasi yake anatakiwa sehemu nyingine. He has requested to start, and then by Mr. Wali. The next topic is rebranding law firms and generating income to lawyers for sustainability of the law firm. And the next presenters will be sharing his experience on firm experience in national mega projects. The CV of the next presenter, Mr. Frank, advocate for 17 years, and he has published several articles in TLS Journal, including labor dispute handling procedures. Kwa wale ambao wana practice in this area, probably you have seen most of some of his published. Mr. Malongo also has been a presenter and TLS organized seminars and conferences for 8 years, majoring in labor laws and practice professional ethics and mentorship to young practitioners. Currently, he leads the team of apex attorneys, advocates in transactions, and advisor of the government of Tanzania in LNG project, which is a national mega project. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to Mr. Malongo as he takes up the podium. Mr. Malongo, just a quick reminder, you also held 30 minutes. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Director of the session, for this invitation. I have already been introduced. I'm Frank Malongo, Managing Partner of Apex Attorneys Advocates. And this year, 2022, the government entered into contracts with a consortium of 3 firms, including Apex Attorneys Advocates, as transaction advisors of the Tanzania Gas and LNG project, which is one of the mega projects in this country. And I think this is the reason why I've been invited to share some experience in national mega projects. I understand many of you have the experience in mega projects, and this is one of them. And I'm given just the privilege to share the experience which you also have to a certain particular extent. See how I can use this gadget. These are large, extraordinary, and most writers refer that these projects in most cases would cost not less than $1 billion. Now, by all standards, the Tanzania gas station given out by the Minister for Energy is that this is a $30 billion. For example, in the consortium of transaction advisors which we are part of, there are almost 24 professions. For Tanzania, we got the privilege to have the legal team from Tanzania and 1 person from finance. So one of the criteria is that mega projects need several professions to come together, but just to see what I've expressed in this Tanzania Gas and LNG project. The first experience is the preparation to be able to take part in mega projects. What does it entail for a firm or any firm in Tanzania as preparation or getting ready to take part? Again, other things to get prepared is the need to have enough professionals. They need to have staff. You need to have enough staff to be able to take part in mega projects. For example, you see staffing, a reasonable number of professionals required. in order to be able to take part in mega projects. But again, much more important, the affairs of the staff should be considered very well in terms of remuneration, in terms of motivation, in order for them to grow within the firm, so that they also grow in terms of competence and be able to take part in these mega projects. So that is the first experience, preparation to take part in mega projects. The second experience basically is about the high level of use of technology. The need to go digital, or the need to use technology at a very high level, is inevitable in these mega projects. In fact, it is almost paperless. There is a lot of electronic communications, accessing documents electronically, but also being able even to use the software for signing documents electronically. So, experience basically is, professionalism is required. And this is because if you make a small mistake, it can cause very big loss in those projects. So, the need for specialization is very high, and I think if a firm is reasonably big, you can start developing departments within the firm and specializations. And where possible, if you specialize to the extent of being able to do publications, that will enhance the level of specialization and professionalism. Just an example of the firm, we are in the consortium that is Baker Boards from UK. They have a department for only oil and gas, and they've been doing that for over 15 years or 20 years. Now just imagine of an advocate who is only doing oil and gas and is doing that for 20 years. To meet that level is not easy. So one of the firm's experience I'm bringing across us today is the need for high level of specialization and professionalism. Otherwise, you cannot fit in these mega projects. Of course, for us, it entails taking a lot of time now in order to keep pace with the level of professionalism which we can see from professionals from UK and others from Middle East. So this is the second experience I'm bringing across. The fourth experience is working in a consortium of professionals. Mega projects, by all standards, it will demand almost all the professions you may think of. And I think as professionals, as legal professions, now you will find that the need for legal in the mega project can be maybe 1% or can be 2%. This does not mean that it's not significant. It is very significant, but you are just needed by 2%. Now 98% you need other professions. So the experience I'm bringing across today is that there is a very high need of developing the culture of working in the form of consortium with other professions, but also even with other law firms, because by all standards, these big mega projects are very much demanding. The fifth experience is about familiarization with international model agreements, model rules, and model procedure. If you try to draw, for example, a petroleum development agreement, if you try to invent a wheel to prepare a host agreement, these are common acts because they are already more to deliver services in national mega projects. You need to acquaint yourself or myself with model contracts. We have international organizations and associations which have prepared model contracts in every aspect which you may think of. We have OECD, you'll see the ICC, and so many others that are there. So to be able to fit in mega projects of this nature, by all standards, you need to acquaint with model contracts, model rules, model procedure. There are a lot of models to study them, be able to understand, and later be able to customize to the local environment. So that is the fifth experience. The sixth experience is about billing. Billing in mega projects is very different, very, very different. And I understand you can be disqualified to take part in mega projects for failing to bill accordingly. So if you fail to bill accordingly, then because sometimes the bidding can define your level of professionalism or my level of professionalism. So bidding is another thing which I've come across, and I find it really very different. What you charge maybe for handling a particular court case, which can take a year or more, it can just be a bill for one day. And you can see the billing for the hour rate seem to range from $300 to $1,000. That is the hourly bill. Now, if you assume that you work for 8 hours or 10 hours in a day, it means your daily rate may range from $3,000 to either $8,000 or $10,000. Now you can see by all standards, that kind of billing, a bill of maybe $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, to them is national mega projects. And indeed, we have to learn and be able to acquit, because a case which we handle for 3 years at 10 million, someone is paid 10 million for one day, or is paid double that amount for working just for one day. So billing is another serious experience I have come across in these mega projects. So the projects are mega, and the fee as well is mega. We are here in Arusha for 2 weeks with international negotiators, seeing how things are running in the negotiation room. I understand being a negotiator is beyond being a lawyer. Being a negotiator in mega projects is something very different. And the international negotiators are very thorough, have very deep and wide understanding, and really every subject that comes up, they have knowledge on it. You talk about the fiscal regime, which is critical. They have so profound knowledge and experience in surveying of several countries. So interaction with international negotiators is another experience. And my take from that, whether you're a lawyer or you have any profession, you must have knowledge on the fiscal regime. You cannot go to these negotiations without knowledge on the fiscal regime. And when I talk of the fiscal regime, I talk of the finances, I talk of the revenue, I talk of the loss. Because in most cases, the discussion is on the fiscal regime, and if the discussion is hot, then a lawyer is asked also to make a point. You can't make a point without having a deep understanding on the fiscal regime. But also, being a negotiator or being a lawyer to participate in these projects, you have knowledge, should have knowledge in economics. And I think this is the reason why in countries like USA, law in the second degree, you should have another degree in the first place to give you an understanding of the subject matter. If you're a tax lawyer, before you start tax law, you should have a bachelor degree in tax transactions, and for that matter, you have profound knowledge. So it can go on and on, but also the knowledge and understanding of international law is very key. In most cases, you'll be supposed to guide on international law and on issues of double taxation and the relationship between international law and local law. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought I should share these 7 experiences of taking part in mega project. Thank you for your kind attention.
Another round of applause to the presenter. Kwa kweli ametendea haki hiyo subtopic yake. From what I gathered is that to have a contract or to have a share in this mega project, ili swala la sisi kuwa jack of all trade, unapata kesi ya witchcraft, unasema you experienced. Hiyo mambo kwenye hakuna ujanja huu. Technology is a must. Those who hate technology in these projects, it seems we have no room. But also, you've touched something about interaction with international negotiators. I think this is a really good area where we need to stress a little bit more. And nadhani hapa pia tunagusa na mpaka East African Law Society. We need to go outside our boundaries to get this kind of experience. Otherwise, if you lock ourselves in our boundaries, at the end of the day, we might not get this quality. It's only when you sit with giants, you feel and think like a giant. Mr. Mwalongo, asante sana. You've spent only 15 minutes on your presentation. If you may, please. I know there are a lot of questions from the members that they need really to know more about what you are doing in this major project. If you can spare just a few minutes so that I can allow Wali to make a short presentation, and then we take the questions quickly. Is it possible? Okay, because Frank Mwalongo anaomba sana aondoke, ninaruhusu maswali kwenye topic yake, angalau maswali 5 au 3, ajibu. Kama kuna mtu anahitaji further clarification on that area, ajibu, and then endelee. Lakini sisi tutaendelea baadaye, tutaendelea na Wali kabla hatujachukua maswali ya watu wawili. Maswali kama yapo tunaruhusu kwa topic hii ya sharing experience in national mega projects. Secretariat, naomba mic in case kuna mtu mwenye swali. Mariam, sijui nani na mic, kuna mkono.
Niko pale kijiji cha Kongo, karibu kilomita 10 tu kutoka Mtwara. Kwamba hizi projects unakuta kwamba mwakili wako kwamba sorry, mimi naitwa Kulwa Leonard Mshishi, ni wakili kutoka Dar es Salaam, cheta ya Ilala, na nina firm yangu inaitwa Mshishi Attorneys and Tax Consultant. Nilikuwa tunaomba kitu kimoja kwamba kwa hizi major project kama ilivyoeleza mrepresentative kwamba it seems kwamba mawakili wengi wanakuwa hawako na information how to apply au facilitate. Kitu ambacho nilikuwa naomba ni kwamba TLS kama facility ya mawakili waweze kuwa na utaratibu wa serikali kwamba kwenye major project, kwa hizi major project zilete kwenye TLS, ili TLS inaweza ikaitisha mawakili wana kwamba wangapi wanafaa, ili na sisi tupate nafasi ya kutenda kwenye hizo big project, kwa sababu the way how this is allocated to lawyers, it seems kwamba wafula kama hapo kama sababu kwamba hatujui kwamba ni kwa namna gani local labda wakili anaweza kawa engaged. Sio very bad idea yangu kwa hiyo major project kwamba how to be treated for local advocates. There should be a system whereby TLS should be involved when na serikali kwamba na discuss ya bail. Wanapatikana, I trust kwamba kuna mawakili ambao wana ujuzi wa kutosha tu kwa hizi mega projects. Asante.
Palikuwa na mkono upande huu. Namba ushuge wewe mpaka ufike, namba ushuge utumie mic ya.
Asante. Mimi nipongeze kwa presentation nzuri. Kwa majina naitwa Wanasheria. Ninaungana na Captain, swali alilouliza mimi naliweka hivi: how do you qualify kupata hii mega projects? Lakini firm kama firm, how mega should be ili iweze kupata, kwa sababu unakuta firm ina watu 5 wanaweza wakapata, au unahitaji kuwa na timu ya watu wangapi kuweza kupata hizi mega projects? Asante.
Nadhani kwa hapo na imruhusu sasa, unaweza ukajibu hapo. Karibu.
Asanteni kwa maswali, na niombe tu radhi kwa kuomba kwamba nipate maswali muda huu, nisisubiri huko baadaye, kwa sababu tu sessions zinaendelea kwa wiki ya pili na saa hizi tu nimeomba break kuliko mwenyekiti ameniruhusu nije nishiriki kwa sababu ilikuwa haiwezekani kuacha bila kushiriki. Kwa hiyo saa 9:30 session ina resume, natakiwa niwe pale. Kwa hiyo samahanini kwa kuharakisha maswali kabla ya ule muda. Yule ndugu yangu wa Mtwara, tutakutana Mtwara na Lindi, hilo nimelipata vizuri. Alafu Captain Bendela ameuliza how I got it. Na mwezi Januari Februari 2018 ilikuwa ni international tender. Hii transaction advisor ilitangazwa ni international tender, ilikuwa ni international bidding, ilitangazwa ndani ya nchi na nje ya nchi. Na ninafahamu ziko firm kadhaa zilizobidi hapa Tanzania, ziko firm kadhaa zilibidi. Kwa hali ilivyo, ile tender ilikuwa ukiangalia gazetini kwa haraka unaweza kusema hii hainihusu. Ilikuwa imekaa kwenye tender bidding, ukiangalia utafikiri haikuhusu. Lakini kumbe ziko kazi nyingi, hata kama haijaandikwa legal services inamhusu lawyer. Kwa hiyo wakati bidding zinafunguliwa, bidding zilizokuwa submitted ni consortium 64 hiyo 2018, na michakato iliendelea. Ilikuwa kazi hii tuanze 2019, lakini kuna kipindi ilistopishwa kwanza, baadaye ikaja kuendelea. Lakini kwa hiyo Captain Bendela, this was the international competitive bidding in the country and outside. Lakini kwa mazoea tulionayo mawakili wengi wa Tanzania, hata hili alihusu, kumbe bwana linakuhusu. Kwa sababu in every tender kumbe there is a legal component which a lawyer could do. Ninafahamu pia several law firms za Tanzania ambazo zilibidi, lakini nadhani sisi tulibahatika kupata hii nafasi. Najua yule member wa consortium kutoka Uingereza ana CV kubwa sana kwenye oil and gas, na hata hizo documents za tender pia zilikuwa zina component ya local content. Kwa hiyo that's how we got it. Nikienda yule wa 4 kwamba how should one get mega project na how big should a firm be. Nadhani Tanzania we are getting the challenge. Firm nyingi zikikuwa zinavunjika. Most firms
sana kwa presentation ya Billy. Sasa naomba ushare uzoefu na sisi, ni checklist na vitu gani vya msingi ambavyo mtakuwa uviangalie when you are doing billing. The checklist and the important things to consider wakati unafanya billing. Asante.
Nadhani things to consider when you do the billing. In the first place, you need to price yourself. Na don't price yourself low. Lakini pia, in order for you to price yourself at a reasonable rate, you need really to concentrate to your work. Do enough research, deliver high quality services, then you'll be able to do the right billing. Najua billing ya local issues iko different na hizi international mega projects. Kwa hiyo the billing should be good enough and high enough. Najua sio somo la kulipitia siku moja, lakini kama unafanya kazi ya uwakili na huo uwakili wako unashindwa kukupa hela ya kuendesha maisha ambayo ni standard, ujue una challenge kwenye billing. Lakini habari ya kupokea kazi nyingi kupita uwezo, kila siku na kesi 4 za kuattend, maana kuna a challenge. Before you go to court, lazima kazi yako uifanyie kazi ya kutosha. Kwa hiyo kwa kujibu swali lako tu, kama ni local billing, najua kuna experience mbalimbali, lakini fee unayolipwa iweze kukusustain. Usiwe busy alafu una njaa kweli kweli. Yaani uko busy kweli kweli lakini una njaa kweli kweli. Lakini pia nadhani changamoto nyingine ninayoiona kwenye law firms, mawakili nao waajiri, nidhamu ya kuwalipa vizuri. Ukipata kazi, share with the people you're working with. Jilipe vizuri, lipa vizuri pia na watu ulionao ofisini. Nadhani hiyo ni eneo jingine ambalo ni changamoto. Unamkuta partner mmoja au wawili wanaishi maisha mazuri kama wako peponi, alafu wengine wanafika squad. Kuna yani partners wanaishi Geneva, alafu advocates na legal officers wanaishi Soweto. Haiwezekani. Muishi sehemu inayofanana. Kama partner anaishi Serena, basi legal officers wao pale jirani, kama ni Hayati, kama ni wapi, jirani. Kwa hiyo nadhani nidhamu nyingine ya kuweza kulifanya vizuri as a law firm is key. Kwa hiyo I think briefly, naweza nisiongee kikamilifu kuhusiana na bili, lakini with the time the cut point is, kazi unaifanya lazima ikusustain, uishi vizuri, usomeshe watoto, uweze kujenga, kudrive, uweze kuinvest. That is the cut point. Asante sana.
Asante sana Mr. Malongo. Ulivyokuwa unazungumza mambo ya kuwa na mafaili ya kutosha, umegusa wengi. Alafu at the same time unatoa gari imekata mafuta, na tena bei ya mafuta ilivyokuwa. Nashukuru. I think it's area where we need really to reflect on billing. Na nadhani TLS is high time that you come up with a topic which deals with billing. Billing ni kila kitu. Unamwona mteja unasema $2,000,000, alafu mteja anaanza kukushusha. Mteja anakuangalia unasema basi nitakufanyia $1,500,000. Unasema basi $1,000,000. Alafu kabla hajasema chochote utalipa kwa installment 3. Sasa wewe mwenyewe baada ya wewe ndo bageni ndo unashuka. Mwisho siku unachukua pesa, baada ya hapo utokee mahakamani. Unampa tabu tu Kapteni Bendera hapo kwenye committee. Asante sana Frank. Na nadhani sasa unaweza ukaondoka. Nashukuru sana. Makofi mengi. Basi the next topic, actually this topic was supposed to be the first. However, it brings a little bit of challenge to the next presenter to take us through on how best the law firm would be to be able to get this national mega program. The next topic talks about the integrity and imaging of the law firms versus professional code of conduct.
And serve their clients. So I'd like you to remember this definition so that you can understand what I'm going to say next. We then have a question, what is branding and then what is rebranding? Because I don't know if most of you asked yourself this question when you came in this morning, that what are we rebranding or what are we re-imaging? So when we talk about branding, it's basically a promotion of a particular product or a company. In our case, the Law Society, for the purpose of advertising and perhaps, getting people to know about what the society is all about, how do we function, and as we heard from the first speaker on dilution, is what activities can we do to look different? But then rebranding is changing the corporate image of a company or an organization, and in our case, the Law Society. So the question then comes that why are we, doing rebranding, and in the fourth industrial revolution, we do work, we do client advice in place. How are we doing our human resource management? How are we handling our sales and marketing? How are we branding ourselves as law firms? What are we doing out there to go and get clients? Which is another issue that our society faces, where most of us don't know or ask these questions on how do I get a client, or when I get a client, what do I say? In the past, we had very few advocates, and everybody knew that this particular lawyer is a litigation lawyer, so go to him and he'll help you. But today, we have thousands of litigation lawyers. So how do you go out there and say, I'm the best litigator, or I know more about corporate litigation, or I am the best criminal litigator? So that is the difference between the practice of law and the business of law. And for us as lawyers, we do need to understand that both these elements are important, are very important. However, apart from having, what do you need at your law firm? Learn to have a handbook, a policy. Make sure that you explain to your teams, your employees, your associates, your partners, that these are the policies, or this is what we're going to follow to respond within 6 hours. I've seen some law firms, when they respond to your emails, they actually have a caption. And I recall, I think email advocates, whenever they respond to you, they say that the next response will come within 24 hours, unless it's a Sunday or a weekend. So it's very important for you to train your lawyers and give them a guide that this is another key element. We always talk about whether lawyers are competent. And what does competence mean? It's again, as what Frank talked to us about. You know, we cannot be jack of all trades. If you do want to focus in corporate, focus on corporate. If you want to talk about IP, go into IP. And take the risk of spending a year or two specializing, and trust me, you will see the fruits. Honesty, I've talked about. Confidentiality, the core of our business. How do you protect your documents? Do you have data protection policies within your firm? Do you have ways of protecting your documents? Do you have ways of protecting your emails? For example, these days everything is done on cloud. For those who are, I would say, the baby bloopers, who are 1946 and above, cloud, when I talk about cloud, I mean the cloud. The first time I was introduced to cloud, when we talk about confidentiality, it goes more than just about you not speaking up about your clients. It goes to the extent of protecting your documents as well. Conflict of interest. It's very important for you to share with your clients if you have a conflict of interest. You cannot take any work or any case where you know that perhaps you had served the opposite side at one point or not. Usually, when such things come to me, because I'm an accredited mediator, I tell my client honestly that, look, I can't represent you in this matter, but perhaps what I can do is have a dialogue for you, and maybe the two of you can sort it out without going to court. So there are ways of helping your clients, and this is provided by the law, and there are hefty penalties for not following. And again, Captain Bandera will agree with me, being the ethics master. We then have public awareness and public statements. Again, you know, I've seen a trend where lawyers go on these amazing platforms, IOTV and Boom TVs and whatnot, you know, Monalisi TVs, and they keep discussing about different topics. Sometimes the cases are in court. I even saw during the elections where questions were being asked about matters in court and presidential candidates were being forced to answer. But read the law. Where do you draw the line? What public statement are you allowed to give? What are you not allowed to give? And in case you are cornered, at least you can quote the law to say, this regulation doesn't allow me to speak about something that's already in court. But you need to be aware of that, and you can include it in your firm handbook. Again, seeking business. Something that is very controversial is us being always told that lawyers cannot advertise, lawyers cannot do this, lawyers cannot do that. But lawyers can actually do creative advertisement, and it's provided in the law. Apart from you just what you're not probably allowed, and again, it's not really tested. I've not seen anybody being brought to the ethics committee for such a thing, and maybe Captain can share. Putting up billboards and going on TV, advertising yourself, I'm the best lawyer, I'm the best litigator. But what's allowed is putting up websites, profiles, business cards. You're allowed to sponsor events like these ones, like you've seen Lowville has done that. You're allowed to speak at events and showcase your brand when you're putting up PowerPoint presentations. So you are allowed to do a few things. Policies like discrimination. This goes to a wide extent of from gender to race to every kind of discrimination you can think about. You need to put that in your policy. Some other policies that you can put related to discrimination is also on sexual harassment, sexual assault. All these things can go into your firm handbook. for you to be able to manage your firm properly. We then have rights of audience in court. So again, you know, as lawyers, we have that right to appear before the court. But again, what are the attires that we're allowed? What is not allowed? I know corporate lawyers always dress up in a shirt and a trouser. I know my partner loves to wear trainers when he comes to the office. But then when you're asked to go to court, can you wear the same attire? When you're presenting in a conference, are you allowed to, is it okay for you to go in trainers? So all these things need to be considered when you're preparing your handbook or your firm policies. And again, the law is there, so you can read it. Now, as I say that the law firm management these days has really evolved, okay? And for you to have a successful practice, a few things that I can give you or a few tips that I can share with you is that, number one, office space is very important. We've seen a lot of lawyers, you know, putting up their offices in their office, especially clients that are involved in these national mega projects. They want to visit your office and they want to see what kind of a person are you. So you may be situated in Mtwara or Lindi and think that because you're there, the local content will assist you. But how have you shaped your office? Does it look like a law practice? You know, those are the investments you need to make. Again, softwares. It's very important for you to choose the right software. Today we're, you know, online. You know, how are you doing your accounting? Is there a software? Are you doing case mapping? Is there a software? So take into considerations these things. And again, with COVID-19, I've seen many people, you know, use Teams and Zoom for communication. So again, these are various internet tools that you can use. Do you have a website? You know, again, any client that comes to you will ask you for a website, or will look you up online on Google. And as you know, these days, when you Google, there are very few websites. Actually, if you type law firms in Tanzania, and if the network allows it here, you can see how few, there are very few law firms that will appear on the Google. Your social media handles. Do you have a LinkedIn page for a law firm? Lawyers, again, key people. How many lawyers do you have? Do you have associates? Do you have legal officers? Do you have interns, trainees? And then it's optional. These are optional, but they're good to have, especially if you want to, you know, look for those. Now start thinking for ourselves. This slide was supposed to later on introduce national LNG plant project, which is about $30 billion. And then there is the Dar es Salaam Maritime Gateway project. That answers your question on how many lawyers are out there. Am I, you know, registered with international bar associations? Am I a member of East Africa Law Society? Am I out there? Am I getting information from out there? All this is around a $1 billion project. Your fees are charged in. I'm sorry, I don't know why he left. You know, I really wanted to ask him that, but you're part of high fees. You know, $300, $400 an hour. And perhaps if we have leading law firms in the room today, please ask yourself that question and how you can help us with it. What is the impact of having international law firms setting up in Tanzania? I recognize, I think it's a South African franchise. We have Africa Legal Network, which is fully operating from Kenya, but has hired some lawyers in Tanzania. I think we have the East Africa Law Chambers. I'm not sure if they're now part of an international. I know there's Clyde & Co., which is highly based in London as headquarters. The question now comes, is this a threat or an opportunity? Are they sharing with us? Are they capacity building for us? Is Tanganyika Law Society going to them and saying that, you know what, you have international experience, can you give CAEs? Can you train our lawyers? Can you mentor our lawyers? So again, as an opportunity, that would work. But as a threat, that they will always have the power to have more lawyers. Like I remember, I think yesterday, Honorable Abdul Samad did a presentation on oil and gas. He has an organization called, where it's an association of oil and gas, membership fee for a year. But when you're there, they share with you all these materials on all the tenders, all the projects. And how many attended that yesterday? Nobody attended, okay? So that's a problem again. But if you did attend yesterday, he actually gave phone numbers and emails of all these international companies that are going to be part of the oil and gas projects. And he actually follows up with those companies to ask, did a lawyer call you? And get feedback. So if none of us are attending these seminars where we have these professionals coming, then ask yourself, how am I supposed to equip myself when it comes to going for these projects? And should I then blame myself or my country for not giving me the opportunity? A few recommendations have already been given a time signal, but basically lawyers need to read. We do have, I have a famous saying that I used to say, the robots are coming, but now I keep saying robots are here because we're already implementing artificial intelligence and it's soon going to be implemented in courts as well. We have 4 kinds of leaders that are the ones that dominate these days. You may read more about these 4 kinds of leaders, but I will just briefly tell you. There's the social servers. These are the guys who get involved in a lot of social activities. They always give their time to humanity. And these leaders always get something back from humanity or the universe. There is the data desired driven leaders. These leaders are mostly very calculative. They look at methodologies and they use data to make their decisions. We then have the disruptive drivers. These are people who are risk takers. They go for anything and everything and try and work themselves up. We then have the talent champions. These are the kind of leaders that want to train their people. They want to invest in their people. They want to make sure that they have the right people, but they also are out there in searching for the best talent. For Tanganyika, the society, I suggest that they should be more focused on building capacity of its members and collaborate with international training platforms to offer, the best practices and best trainings. You need to be passionate about what you're doing, and to succeed in any profession, you need to be very persistent, and you need to be also patient. The gurus we see sitting in front of them and ask them, Honorable Makaramba, how did you do it? And I'm sure he'll be. So, with that, thank you very much, and sorry for the bitterness that I shared.
Makofi mengine kwa Mr. Wali. Thank you very much, Mr. Wali. Your presentation really stirred up a number of things. One thing that has come up clearly is that people should adhere to the professional code of conduct, especially in our practice. But also the kind of offices that we are running, we really need to look at frequently and see if we can compete at the national, even international level. Ile mambo ya ofisi moja, chumba kimoja, jamani, hiyo mikatazo. Uwezi ukaoperate na mnayoteka kwa HR, sijui nini, unakuwa crowded. Kodisheni, join wengi, kodisha. Na kitu kingine ambacho, one thing that we have said, which is very clear, and I'm afraid I have to point out to the young lawyers. Young lawyers are the one actually complaining every day. But this kind of topic which Wali has presented, I think young lawyers need to hear. They need really to listen to it. It's a very good topic. And nadhani wale walioko nje waambie, we really need your thoughts. Ikiwezekana, you can put it in a notebook or a pamphlet. It will be like a checklist to have a good law firm. Asante sana, Mr. Wali. The last topic for this session, the first session is presented by Benedict Ishabaka, and he's going to present on law firm branding and management, a path for sustainable law firm, soft skills for business in a legal profession, and law firm compliance issues.